Okay, are we live for real this time?
I think so. This time it's for real.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry for anyone who was in our stream for like 15 seconds. YouTube was being weird, didn't show us as being live, so we just deleted that stream, started fresh over, pretended that didn't happen. Welcome back. For real this time, I will have to re-show our guest host here shortly.
Absolutely, you will.
But before then, let's go around and say hello to everyone. Ben, how's it going, my man? How's your Thursday going?
For real this time.
Pretty good for real this time. Look, those hiccups happen. I think our fans will be fine. They'll find their way around YouTube. But I was just saying, as we were non-recording or recording with a delay, is that, guys, isn't it freaking wonderful being Star Wars fans now? We just ended up with Celebration, and the wait for Kenobi is finally over. We're here, we're watching it. To me, I think the cherry on top is just seeing how much love Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, and everybody involved is getting. It's like reliving the prequel era all over again, and it's as if it happened yesterday. I'm like, oh my god, I'm 20 years older, but this is all over again. And like, fans are enjoying this stuff genuinely. I'm hearing nothing but like positive reviews. Fans are saying this is my favorite live action show to date, and it's just fun. It's really exciting, guys.
It is fun. I think that's really well said, Ben. And we're going to talk a lot about Star Wars Celebration and Kenobi, and there's going to be a bunch to say about both. But first, let's go over to Jimmy. Jimmy, what's going on in the world of Jim?
I'm pretty tired. My manager's having one of his times. So everything is naturally, we're doing it wrong, and he wants to yell at everyone. So work's pretty rough. I'm also
It's me, guys. He's talking about me.
No, I'm also in the process of moving, so my room is very bland now. Most of my stuff is boxed up in the living room, and I'm tired, but I'm here to talk Kenobi. I have enough energy for that always.
Always.
Is your boss related to Kylo Ren somehow?
Oh, that's a pretty good comparison.
That's a good comparison.
He's always just, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, you don't even know the process yourself.
Well, for folks who didn't see the 15 seconds of our last live stream, and they're sitting here like, hey,
last 15 seconds.
What did I miss? We have a special guest on the podcast tonight. As you guys know, as the channel's growing, we're going to expand more and more to our fans, to other audiences, to other creators, even some celebrities, right? Some celebrities. And tonight we have our first celebrity to the channel. That's right, everyone. We have Chopper right here.
It's your boy.
We got our boy right here from Galaxy's Edge.
Disney marketing at work, guys.
We got Galaxy's Edge Chopper. I got a buddy who lives down in Florida and was able to. So it's really cool is when you're at Disney World, if you want to buy something, but you like, how do I get this back to, I don't want to pack this in my luggage, or I don't want to fly this back. You can literally send it to yourself from the place. So you could buy it right there and just ship it right back to your house. So you don't even have to actually carry it yourself. So he went there, checked it out, and sent it right to my house. And there we go. Chopper here in his mechanical body. We love to see it. Thanks for being on the show, Chopper. More to come. We're going to be doing an interview with Chopper on the channel. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing an unboxing of the thing. So be on the lookout. He's definitely going to go perfect on my shelf. So looking forward to that. Very much looking forward to it. But there is a lot to talk about today. And as we let some folks come in, the first topic is going to be Kenobi. I will say spoilers, right? We're going to have to talk spoilers. I know if you're on YouTube right now, I know you're braver than I know you're not afraid of spoilers at this point. And you, are in the Wild West. But just in case you have not, be prepared for spoilers. Stay off the internet unless you want to have big moments, big character times spoiled for you. So just a warning there. Second of all, Star Wars Celebration has come and gone. We're going to discuss that as well. Those two topics alone are going to take the majority of our time because there's so much to talk about, especially with Celebration. Like Celebration wrapped on Sunday, which was only 4 days ago, and it feels like it was like 10 years. It literally feels like it's been so long since we had a chance to even just digest Star Wars Celebration news. So we're going to get everyone's opinions there as well. So before we go into that, before we talk about those big things, is there anything else this week, guys, that's on your radar on Star Wars? Anything you've been excited about, anything you're reading, anything you're anticipating, or is it all Kenobi all the time?
So I don't know if I ever actually mentioned it on stream, but I did finish Queen's Hope, the Queen's trilogy. So good. It's just so good. It's a lot of fun. And all the authors on Twitter have been talking about how Queen's Hope and Brotherhood line up really well. And going from Queen's Hope into Brotherhood, I'm on chapter 8 now.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle actually of Brotherhood. I'm kind of like slowed down just a little bit because I'm reading like 3 books at a time. So it's Brotherhood.
Yeah.
I'm pushing on with my X-Wing series, and I'm book 5, I believe, and Wraith Squadron, which is phenomenal. It's amazing.
Oh,
I think this is where the franchise, the series of books passed on hands from Michael Stackpole to, I believe, oh my God, who
Is it Aaron Alston?
Aaron Alston, yeah, thank you.
Oh, nice. Look at me.
It's the first book of his, and I'm really, really enjoying because between the two, even though it's 2 different authors, it feels like it's one coherent, wholesome story. Like it's really enjoyable.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, fun. I'm right there with you guys. It's been a little bit of Brotherhood, but golly, there was so much going on with Celebration and Kenobi. I felt like it was so hard to have your attention anywhere else. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's been top of the list. And, you know, one thing I will say as we get rolling here, I will echo Ben's kind of sentiment that let us off here with, it has been, I think, a really fun last 2 weeks, right? Into Kenobi, into Star Wars Celebration, back to another episode of Kenobi. It's just felt so jam-packed, full of fun and all of that. So it is really enjoyable. I'm having a great time, despite some of the negative stuff we've seen in the community, both, you know, some negative reactions to the show and some kind of crazy drama in the community as well. I'm ignoring all that. We're just going to talk about our thoughts on the show because episode 3 was big time. And again, I know some folks come in and out of the stream, so I'm going to preface this again. There are spoilers ahead, guys. So do not be sticking around unless you are just, you've already seen it or you don't care about spoilers. Episode 3 or part 3 really surprised me. I mean, really, really went in unexpected ways. And if you would have asked me to kind of plot out the show in my head, I did not expect an episode like this to just show up, you know, so early, right? Especially because 1 and 2 came out as one joint release. Part 1 and part 2 were one joint release. So this really feels like episode 2. And to go so big and to have so many things going on really surprised me. Did you guys watch my review last night? I mean, I'm kind of a little bit just like, I can't believe it. What did I just see? You know, it's a little bit of like trying to catch my guard. But as always, I'd like to give just our general thoughts in the episode, and then we'll deep dive through all the things I found interesting. I'll get us started here and say I actually really enjoyed the episode, and I've found myself enjoying it more and more as the day has gone on. It's one of those things I watched it at first. I was like, oh, that was cool. I like that. But as I've thought about it more, as I've seen other fans talk about it, it gets me more and more into it, more and more excited. I will specifically call out that I watched Ben's video. I actually watched his review. Typically, I don't before a stream, just to kind of keep us fresh. But this time I did. I just felt like, you know, I'm gonna see what Ben had to say. I was doing some other work, listen to Ben in the background. And actually, funny enough, Ben, I don't even know, you know, if you loved the episode, but listening to you describe it, talk back about it, and give some of your opinions, it actually made me like the episode even more. I was like, man, listening to Ben just kind of take me through it again and providing some interesting perspectives on it has really like enhanced it. And there's several cool fan theories I've seen and cool parallels I've seen we'll talk about later. My overall impression of the episode is extremely strong. I really liked it. With all episodes though, so this is my review last night, I'll keep repeating it. It's a 6-episode show. Ultimately, how the show concludes, how the next episodes go, will dictate our memory of it. Game of Thrones had 4 or 5 strong seasons, 2 bad seasons, tanked the whole thing. No one even wants to talk about it anymore, right? Yeah. So it's not about how you start, it's about how you consistently maintain your story, your emotional moments. So I thought this episode was really, really great. At the end of the day, 3 more episodes to go. Let's see where they take it. Quick thoughts. That was mine. Let's pass it over to Ben. Ben, you inspired me. You pumped me up. What did you think about the episode before we deep dive in?
I think I mentioned it either on my Facebook group or on Twitter that I consider this one of the better episodes in as far as live action Star Wars is concerned. It's very tight. It's very wholesome. I still find things in there that are problematic, and I think I'm sort of, with this show in particular, settling into this live action Star Wars trend where I'm kind of mediating what my expectations were versus the reality of it, what it is, and kind of finding the middle grounds. Like, hey, where do I stand with this? With the Book of Boba Fett, with Mandalorian, and now with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's I would say overall, like everything combined, it's consistently quality material, and this to me represents what the future shows can aspire to. Again, not being perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's actually fun and interesting to nitpick and find problems and discuss them, but not in a way that's like, hey, this is why I dislike the show. No, we can talk about the issues, but say, overall, does this episode and does the show win me over? And it most certainly did. And remember, guys, how before the show started, I was telling you that for me, it was important that this show specifically hits all the right notes for prequel fans first. Extract me out of this equation. I might be a little bit more cynical, a little bit more purist, and come from that Star Wars original trilogy and those fond 80s memories kind of background. It ain't about me. It's Ewan McGregor, the driving force, arguably, or one of behind a prequel trilogy. And this is what was very important key moment to catch it there. And you just can't deny it. It's undeniable. But when you see it on screen, it's all there.
Jimmy.
I just loved it. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get into all the details later, but just quick thoughts. It was great.
I think this episode in particular, for the folks who, because I've seen, I'm with you, Ben. I think I've seen overwhelmingly positive response to this episode in particular. Now, I know today there was this thing on where fans were review bombing it, Rotten Tomato. They dropped it down to like a 50% fan audience score. It's just that mass downvote kind of mentality. It's silly and stupid. I'm not interested in it. Rotten Tomato scores don't mean anything, especially audience reaction. Because when it comes to shows, there's no way to verify you've seen it. So when it comes to a show, you can mass do it. There's not even like a proof of ticket or proof of you've seen it or proof of you bought the product. It's just people, especially because of some of the narratives that got tossed up this week. So ignoring that response from the actual kind of human people interacting with the product, I've heard a lot of really positive response, which has been kind of cool to see. Now, I think for folks who didn't know this episode, I will tell you one thing that I could catch happening, or I think could happen, because this episode, spoiler alert, has what I'm considering the first part of the Kenobi versus Vader rematch. I absolutely know there'll be a part 2. I feel beyond confident it's going to happen. And if your expectations for the rematch were some epic Mustafarian battle, like that is absolutely a remake of what we saw in Revenge of the Sith, you might have been disappointed. But I think there was a lot of reasons, a lot of good story narrative reasons the fight was the way it was. And it doesn't, if you went in and you had those expectations and it didn't deliver, you might be someone who was disappointed with that confrontation. But I think it made a lot of sense watching it. I think it made even more sense when I've heard some fans kind of dive into the certain dynamics of the two characters. And so we'll be sure to talk about that as well. So as we get rolling with the start of the episode, I kind of like to, I don't like to recap the whole episode, right? I mean, you can do that. There's a lot of channels that go through it. Ben does that in his reviews where he kind of gives you play-by-play what works. And so I don't want to repeat what you've already heard folks go through. So instead, I just want to start with like some of the things that really stick out to me as either really positive, really negative, and worth discussion. And the first of those, I think, was right towards the beginning of the episode. We have like the assembly of Vader paralleling kind of the meditation of Kenobi. So you have Kenobi kind of, reflecting, trying to commune with the Force, trying to speak to Qui-Gon, it looks like, being haunted by these past, taunting and words and images. And then in parallel, Vader is being put together, being assembled, being piece by piece brought back to life, and then presented in his castle in Mustafar. And I thought that was a really, really great scene. I love every time you kind of see Vader in his element. And it was just kind of cool to see your two heroes, your two, brothers kind of paralleling the different places they are in their lives, both dark, but how they kind of have totally opposite experiences in their daily life. That's the first strong point to me. What did you guys think of Vader's castle on Mustafar?
I mean, again, everything seemed pretty great to me. The thing that got me is, I guess, it's one of those things I'm looking really hard. These shows are supposed to be like TV shows and they look like TV shows. So I don't think it's fair for me to go in there and be like, this doesn't look like Revenge of the Sith quality. But I mean, it is what it is. The one thing I thought was interesting, and I was expecting a lot of complaints about this. I don't know why, but it didn't happen, was the way his helmet goes on. Because like it's supposed to be the face mask, and then the helmet. It came down as one piece. I was like, I bet people are gonna hate that. But I mean, nothing happened. So
That's how the toy comes. Just fun fact.
I was gonna say, and a lot of the
That's how
toys
toy
did
goes.
that too. So I was like, I mean, I guess this is more like unique to the original design of it. I think it's great that they left the red lenses in.
Yeah, the red lenses are a big thing they brought back in Kenobi, and I'm really happy that they've leaned into those heavily.
And I love that so far, like a lot of the concept art we saw early on was just reimagined on screen, like him sitting there in the throne. I remember seeing the concept art for that, and I was like, ooh, this is cool. And then seeing it for real, I was like, oh, this is real. This is happening.
Before we get Ben's thoughts on the Vader armor, I will call out YouTube's been a little weird tonight with our stream. So I know our first one got taken down, and we're back up in a new link. I know we have viewers in here. I don't really see comments going on. People might not be commenting, but if you are and we're not seeing it, apologies. YouTube's been kind of weird tonight. And sorry if you missed the beginning and you're just joining now. There's been some weirdness. Appreciate your patience with us. We figure out these. This is a live production. This is real. We're doing it live. So
money is being put into it, okay? We have a budget.
Yeah, we only have so much money we can put into this thing. It's duct tape on the back end. No, jokes aside. Ben, down to you. I mean, did you like the Vader assembly scene? Did that stick out to you as a high point?
It didn't necessarily grab me as that visual parallel. Now that you guys bring it together, I sort of see it. And I'm very, very attuned to these kind of like visual storytelling, because for me, I sponge everything in an image. When I watch something like a show or a movie, there has to be complete silence, dark room, and I really sponge everything up. So if that was indeed the intent there to draw that parallel, I didn't catch on to it because I would put it on just the cinematography, the way it was filmed. For me, my attention was drawn to Darth Vader's voice. I did notice that little thing that Jimmy, you called out, that the way that helmet goes over is different. And I guess if that scene meant a lot to you when you were a kid, it's almost like a canonical, an important scene where the mask goes over like this and the helmet goes over like that. And only then, the Vader rises. I could kind of see that it's like a little bit discerning, like, oh, okay, they did it in a different way, maybe reinterpreting it. I'm pretty sure they were very conscious of the way it looks like in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, they're behind.
Yeah, and it's the same in Return of the Jedi.
Right,
too.
Exactly. So my attention was drawn to the voice. It was that we kind of were trying to hide it, that James Earl Jones would reprise the role. Obviously, it's his voice, right? Unless I'm missing something. I hope it's not synthesized.
It is. It is his voice, yeah.
Right. I don't remember Vader sounding this good ever since the original trilogy. He doesn't sound like this in Revenge of the Sith. He doesn't sound like this in Rogue One, where it was lovely to have the James Earl Jones. He also does the voice acting for the Rebels, right? I think one or so episodes, or maybe every single episode he's in. But, he sounds definitely a little bit more phoned in, a little bit more aged, because I guess it's transportation, probably relocating in order to record these scenes for him is a little bit more problematic. He's in his advanced years, but the way that you hear it in this show brought me to the 80s. I'm like, oh, this is the Vader I remember. Yes, it's what wonderful voice work could do. So it stood out to me in that sense.
You called that out in your review last night, Ben, and I thought it was really well said. Something I didn't maybe fully pick up on in my first watch. And one thing I think right off the bat that might kind of fly. So I think, as fans, and I'm not saying, I don't know if anyone really holds this, but one thing I could see is fans would be so excited for this Vader vs. Obi-Wan rematch, where they expect this kind of emotional, pleading dialogue back and forth. This maybe more verbal banter where it's like, and Vader's saying very little in this whole confrontation. But I think that actually makes a lot of sense from a story perspective for a number of reasons. First of all, Vader is in bad shape. Okay. I mean, it's not like it's easy for him to just be throwing around one-liners as he's going about. But what I really like about this episode more than anything else, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but it goes right in with the voice, it goes right in with the assembly, is that one thing this episode really drove home is that this is not Anakin and Obi-Wan anymore. It's Vader and Obi-Wan. And you might say, yes, I know. But a lot of times Vader will make we'll say the line, in Rebels, for example, he'll say like, I killed Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker's dead. He was weak, right? And you're kind of like, yeah, I get it. But like, you're still Anakin. But in this episode, he was a different person. He felt like a whole different person. It didn't seem like, oh, okay, it's just Anakin with a mask on and they're like back in old times and they're having... it shows you after 10 years of being consumed by the dark side, consumed by the armor and the pain, that this is a different person. It's not just the old Anakin and Obi-Wan that we used to know. And Obi-Wan's, completely caught off guard, completely like floored by the fact that, Anakin's still alive. But Anakin isn't alive. That's not Anakin anymore. There's nothing Anakin about him. And I actually really like that kind of intentional choice they did. And I'm already jumping the gun. But that's just one thing that when you talk about the voice, that was part of it for me is he's not making quips like Anakin or talking a lot. It's a whole different, it's completely focused, completely killer. And using his words sparingly, but saying a lot.
And to your point, and to Stickman's point about it being terrifying, it's great because right before stream started, I watched an interview with Ewan McGregor talking about the first scene he does with Vader. And he says, yeah, he comes up behind me and I'm supposed to turn around. And I turned around and I was legitimately terrified. It was like I was 7 years old again. I was just like, ah! Yeah. And I was like, I can't imagine you just...
Yeah.
I just can't imagine turning around and Vader's not like 1 foot in front of you. Just no thanks.
I made a comparison to the original Terminator film, which I saw as a kid 2 or 3 years later after watching the part 2 on VHS, where Terminator is a good guy. And then you go to theaters and watch part 1 on the big screen, and he was genuinely terrifying. You know the actor, you've seen part 2, and now you're watching part 1, and something James Cameron had instilled ideas-wise to Arnold, how he perfected that blank face. A lot of people discard it, saying, oh, you just stood in front of the camera and that's it. No. It's a very well-crafted character.
Yeah.
It looks outwardly as a human, but to be able to get that pinpoint precision, that deadly machine that is after you. Remember, Kyle Reese says that it'll never stop. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. Same here with this Vader. It's that transformation from good-hearted and kind and giving Anakin to this monster, to this machine. He's not interested in conversation.
Yeah.
He's not interested in what you have to say or, have big exposés about what he's going to do to you. He's doing it to Kenobi.
And we're going to revisit this in a second, so I'll hold the rest of my thoughts and we'll dive into this more and Stickman's comment here because I have a lot to say. I was thinking about this a lot today throughout the day. Yeah. And so we're going to probably spend like 30 minutes on this alone. So again, guys, I know folks are in and out. We've had some hiccups with stream. So if you're a little confused on what happened to the original feed, it's back up now. We don't know what happened. YouTube is being weird. And some of the comments have had a little bit of lag as well. So apologies in advance if you're saying things we can't see them. We appreciate you here nonetheless. Now, here we go. Want to talk about, let's take a step back about what I also liked in the beginning, which I actually liked the Inquisitors. Okay. I actually thought the Inquisitors episode were good. I thought they had some really interesting backstabbing and vying for power as they should. And I really like that they showed that on screen. I like the fact that, Reva makes her play to talk to Darth Vader and get early information, get an upper hand. And then later in the episode, Fifth Brother undercuts her. It's like, oh, I already called Vader. I love that. Like, that's so on brand for evil Jedi, Fourth users, all of that. It's like the dark side. It's so on brand to be cutthroat. And first of all, Slappy Burrito, I laughed yesterday. He had a comment in one of our videos talking about how Vader literally would have turned Obi-Wan into like Uncle Owen level of crispy. And I laughed at his comments. So
that's
appreciate
great.
it.
I like that.
I appreciate it. So before I got sidetracked there, I thought the Inquisitors were actually solid this episode. And I enjoyed the fact, this is what I love, guys. This is the point I've been trying to get to that it's taken me a second to recall what I was thinking about today. Among other things, I've had so many thoughts about this episode since watching it. Do you guys see the difference between an Inquisitor and Vader? Do you guys see the difference between an Inquisitor and a Sith? Okay. The level of evil and power is not even close. Okay. And I actually believe, even more so now, they've gone above and beyond in this show to make the Inquisitors look like not quite as even. Like, Reva cuts a hand off, and Fifth Brother's like, what are you doing? Like, we give them money to tell us information. Vader rolls up on the scene, and he's like, whose neck am I going to break with a flick of my hand? Okay. It's not the same. So if you ever like, oh, what's the difference between the Sith and the dark? Like, what are dark side users? Okay. There's levels to this. Okay. Right. And Vader is a whole, and I love that they showed that. They showed that to you. In fact, as Vader is walking down the street, like Jason Voorheesing people.
Okay, literally, yeah.
Walking, okay. The Inquisitors are standing behind him like, You know, like they're literally like, wow, pretty hardcore.
Like the entire time I was thinking Halloween 2018, where he's just like walking from house to house killing everyone.
That's exactly That's exactly what the episode was filmed to do. It was exactly the emotions it was trying to elicit. And so I love the fact that, like, you know, like I made this joke in episode 1 where I'm like, the Inquisitor have always been garbage. They're not good. Like they haven't been good anywhere. And like it's just hilarious to me because you see them compared to Vader, like a true Sith, and it's like, oh yeah, they're nobodies. They're nothing. They're just, you know, they're Force users who have red lightsabers who don't even hold a candle to what the real power of the dark side could be. And so I thought that was just a really kind of cool thing as well. Even though I like the Inquisitors this episode, I thought them trying to just be groveling and be sneaky and get power right on brand. I really enjoyed a lot of that. And I still think Fifth Brother has an awesome voice. I love the modulated depth there. But anyway, Inquisitors for you guys, they've been the point of contention. I'm not even talking about the drama around Third Sister and all the crazy, inappropriate things in the community. I'm just talking about there's some people who, like myself, have been like,
guys.
Yeah, just I'm talking about like as the Inquisitors. I think they've been probably the most complained about thing in the first couple episodes. Is they're just not that intimidating. They're maybe written poorly. They're not that scary. So I thought they were good in this episode. What did you guys think of the Inquisitors? Were they better? Were they about the same? Do you even care about them? Do you want to see them fly on the helicopter? Because we still haven't seen that. So fingers crossed there.
I need to see that. I would like to see that happen. As far as they go, they were better in this episode. They are more what the Inquisitors are just supposed to be there to be scary, I think, you know, because before, you know, there's the concept, there's a difference between Sith and Dark Jedi.
Yeah.
I think the Inquisitors are more Dark Jedi than they are Sith.
Oh yeah.
Not the same amount of training. It's probably very minimal, and they are meant there just to instill fear and to like report to Vader. So, you know, Reva going out there and chopping a hand off, they're like, you're not Vader. You can't just do that. Whereas, you know, when Vader goes through and kills a man, everyone's just like, let him do it. Don't touch him.
I'm telling you what,
it's a different story, guys. I'm a little bit more conflicted because I have a spectrum of feelings when it comes to Kenobi specifically. And let me just say right from the start that it is by far the best Star Wars live action show to date. Like by far. I don't even care how it ends because for me, it's never about the end. It's about the journey, and the journey is taking me there. It's an enjoyable show. But what's frustrating for me is it's just a shy second away from being great. It's a good show, but it's not great. It's not special the way that Star Wars used to be special to me as a kid. And for a reason, one of the biggest reasons is the Inquisitors. So first, I don't buy the whole idea, the notion that they're nobodies, you know, they're garbage, they're just there to frighten the children with, and then the real monster comes out. Like I don't get it because, and again, I recognize that I come from a very specific angle, which is very biased, very particular, and a lot of it is not intellectual or logical. A lot of it is based on childhood memories and my personal interaction with Star Wars and my personal interpretation of it. When I was a kid and I saw Vader for the first time enter Tantive 4, I always imagined there has to be more generals like him who stand out from regular stormtroopers. They're black armor, maybe not as powerful as this guy, right? Because he becomes the main hero's dad, right? And he's obviously very powerful. He takes down the Emperor. But maybe some other ones, because two people, an Emperor and the Apprentice, can't just run the entire Empire. That's why I also never liked the Rule of Two idea, even though I love my Bane books. So the whole thing with Inquisitors, they needed for me to represent this threat that these lions, or at least hyenas, who are there to just basically take apart any kind of like confrontation or early rebel cells or a Jedi that they encounter, just like extinguish that fire super quick. And later on, guys, am I being disturbed?
No, I hear you.
Oh, you're not hearing anything in the background? Okay, perfect. Because I'm hearing some background. This is some traffic. Sorry, guys.
It's getting a little louder, but like it's fine. Keep talking. I'm paying attention to you.
Yeah.
So the idea was that I wanted Inquisitors to be threatening. I wanted them to be a force to be reckoned with. So when the Vader comes out, he's even more threatening. He's more like you're in complete awe of him, right? Because they promised us he will be unlike you haven't seen Vader before. And we've seen glimpses of that. But before Vader shows up, they sort of set themselves up as the antagonists. And when the show is lacking in that department, they are present, yet they're not doing anything. It immediately takes the entire experience down a notch. Even though Ewan McGregor McGregor is killing it. Just seeing Hayden Christensen for 2 seconds and a half standing there for a good reason. Not like it's just a cameo screen drop, like, oh, by the way, Hayden Christensen is here. No, it's Kenobi being completely shattered spiritually, and he's like seeing visions, and he sees his Anakin turning around to him. He's like, you just wait to see what's coming to you, Master. You know, you feel that presence there. But it also needed to happen the same with the Inquisitors.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the hyena comparison is a fair one, right, for the Inquisitors. And I guess when I say that they're worthless or they're bad, I mean a little tongue in cheek,
Right,
meaning they are in comparison to any real hero, right? Against low levels, like to your point, Ben, well said, against like low level rebel, sort of outposts. Yeah, they're going to look just leagues above because these folks can't even compete. But when it comes to real Jedi or Jedi in their heyday, or Vader or an Obi-Wan, like it's not much of a competition. And there are two different things that play here. There's power level, and then there's like character development, right? And they're we're kind of talking about both interchangeably, but they are different things. A character can be weak but really engaging and well written, right? From a weak power level perspective.
Right.
I think maybe what point I could have made a little better is I almost feel like the showrunners intentionally have made Inquisitors throughout their existence on television. I think it's a little different in Fallen Order, but in Rebels and now in Kenobi, they just seem not as threatening as you might expect, right? They seem very cool in design, but a lot of flash over actual substance.
See, if it was, sorry, Josh, if that was indeed the intent, that I feel that they consciously have just shot themselves in the foot there, because it's see, the only context that I'm judging a show by, I know there's already a lot of critique of saying, well, it countermands a couple of canonical ideas that happened with Kenobi in A New Hope, so the whole show is ruined for me. I don't care for that. As an original fan of the original trilogy, I don't care for that. My first concern is for the framework of the story. It needs to work itself within its own context. Not looking to outside, or how Inquisitors look in the Rebel show, which I actually enjoyed a lot. For me, they needed to work here, because before Vader shows up for a greater portion, for 2 episodes, they're there. They got to do something. You got to exploit them. If the explanation is, well, we just wanted to take them down a notch, then you're kind of like subverting the quality of your own story.
Yeah, no, understood and valid. It seems like the villain in the first 2 episodes, being the Inquisitors. Mm-hmm. The goal of the first episode is really to have Kenobi on the run, right? Which it does make it challenging to know what the Inquisitors could have been like as the main antagonist, because they really aren't the main antagonist. I guess the show has made it perfectly clear here. It's Vader, Kenobi, and Reva, right? Those are the 3 main characters of the show. That's who we're going to follow the most of. Jimmy, that's what worked for me in the first part of the episode. I liked Vader. I liked the Inquisitors. We transitioned to kind of a Kenobi and Leia moments. Let's transition to that part of the show as well. I actually felt like a lot of those scenes were the weakest part of the episode, outside of some really good heartfelt moments between Kenobi and Leia. There's a couple in particular that are really, really sweet. They nail the character kind of development. What did you think of our little beautiful transport ride together through the deserts?
Let me Kenobi word vomit for you guys.
Oh, here we go.
Short answer, it was great. Long answer. So the planet Mapuzo, very interesting, very, very different from what we got on Dayu, which I think was cool. Again, though, I don't know if that was shot in the arena completely. Yeah. I don't know if they went on location.
They did.
Because it kind of just looked like Arizona.
It did look like Arizona.
Which, I mean, it's fine, like, I'm not to say like there's not planets that are going to look, close to what we have. Yeah. Like that episode of The Mandalorian looked like my backyard in California. So. Yeah. But I thought it was just cool to see them walking around. But the things I loved about it were really the dialogue, when they get to the location and Obi-Wan's like, this is where we're supposed to be at. They're supposed to meet us here. And Leia's like, maybe they're just late. And he just explodes on her. He's like, well, maybe they're not coming, Leia. You ever think of that? Like, he's so
jaded.
Let me come back. He's so broken. He doesn't trust anything anymore, that he's like, Anakin betrayed me. We were all deceived by this lie. There's no way I'm going to believe this tiny little person coming to help us. They're not going to do that. So when they get in this truck, first off, the character of Freck, odd. I love that it was played by Zach Braff, though. I thought that was really cool.
It's just a mole man.
Zach,
just a mole man.
Zach Braff. He's an actor. He's best known for his role in the TV show Scrubs.
Googling him.
I
know him. Yeah.
He was in Garden State with Natalie Portman. I love that movie. But the ride there was so stressful with the stormtroopers, especially when he calls her Leia, and they're just like, "You just called her a different name." I love how stormtroopers are like suspicious of everything. It's so annoying for how ineffective they are, you know. Which is great because they're always like, "Oh, we'll catch the Jedi. We always do." I'm like, "No, you don't." He's right there. But what got me was like, I don't think it was acting. I think he truly meant when he was like, "I look at her and I see her mother." Like, he was thinking of Natalie Portman.
Right.
And it's just like the way those lines go. When she's like, when she asked, like, "Are you my real father?" He's like, "I wish I could say I was." I was just like, ouch. And then the backstory for Obi-Wan, memories of his family, and he's like, "I think I had a brother." I was like, not the secret sibling. I'm going to cry.
Obi too.
Like, it's there you go. That's a real thing. And it just it was so good. And then Freck decided to turn them in, which I think that's better for the character. I definitely would not have expected it. I think he was just going to be like, "Oh, we're just going through." But for him to be like, "You might want to check these two out," I was like, "Oh, I didn't see this coming. I really didn't."
He's like, "I brought him to this checkpoint so you guys could kill him, this little girl."
And I now know why laser gates are important.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
That guy is very dead.
I like that a lot. Here's our mole man himself, Zach Braff.
Good old Zach Braff.
You can see the resemblance. Looks just like his character.
He was nice. Yeah. He was fun.
He was fun. And Blue Pig called out earlier. It was kind of an interesting character. It was like, hey, the Empire protects our farmlands. It keeps them law and order. Isn't that good?
And I thought it was great because he said that Mapuzo's a mining world, and this guy rolls up. I was like, "Is that a mole?"
Yeah, I know.
and like what Ben mentioned, the like mirage PTSD of Anakin just standing there. He turned around. I was like, "I don't like what I'm looking at. I'm stressed. I'm sweating right now."
It was a tension-filled ride, but ultimately we get to our destination after a stormtrooper gets cut in half, which was funny. I say funny loosely. I mean, it was kind of surprising. A lot of people talk about Star Wars, and Disney being really kidified. This episode in particular would definitely have been a little harsh for young kids. There's several scenes in here that would have been a little scary for younger kids, to say the least. So leaned into a little bit more of a mature rating in this episode. Of course, not anything like what you've seen in horror and rated R shows or something, but not afraid to see a stormtrooper get cut in half just from falling onto a laser gate. Weakest part of that whole scene for me was, and this is so silly, I'm kind of memeing here, but like after they take out all the troops, they go like deactivate the laser gate.
Yeah.
And they could have just walked right around.
I was like, why didn't they just walk around?
Well, the thing is, they still need the transport because if they're going to traverse the desert, they just going to dehydrate and die.
I thought about that too, but then they run straight.
Yeah, they run right off through the gate, but then they stop. There's the other convoys coming up.
I think you're right, Ben. I think the idea was that like they would need the transport, but I think the way they edited or the way they filmed it,
it's probably the editing.
It's just like it's just a little like goof. So it was like it looked like they just like opened it, and just ran. It's like you just walk around.
So I had completely different read on this whole scene. I find these kind of moments are where live action Star Wars shines. When you're telling us something, where you bring us home and introduce us to these characters and make us live with them, especially in a serialized kind of like format. Yeah. And then it's fun coming back every week and say, what's going to happen to that person next? And like you mentioned, Jimmy, like all of the background that Kenobi gives, all that heartbreak, but he looks at Leia. And something interesting with Stormtroopers that I don't ever remember seeing, because in a way it was almost annoying in the second season, I believe, of Mandalorian, where these two Stormtroopers, the swoop bikers, they kind of tried to hit something. They don't have that little banter, which I felt completely stupid. I dislike when they play on that idea that Stormtroopers can't hit anything. I'm just, oh my God, you're basically revealing, exposing the weaknesses of the movies.
Of the originally.
Right. But here, something fun happened. When those Stormtroopers come aboard, they chat, they talk, they have a conversation. There's people behind the masks there. And the way that the scene registered with me personally was when Kenobi makes that error. It's like, oh my God, so obvious. He made that mistake. Well, yeah, because he's mentally not there.
Yeah.
He's dwelling somewhere on Anakin, right? On just seeing a vision of him. So it stands to reason he could easily make a mishap like that, right?
Absolutely.
Mishap, sorry guys. But once he says that, and he's not using his Jedi ability to countermand the situation, kind of influence the stormtrooper, he appeals to their senses. And he wiggles around it by saying like, no, I'm just heartbroken. And this is what happened to my late wife. And how they were able to respond to this, like, all right, I'm going to let it slide this time. Because it's indeed their job to pursue everybody. And they did get the commands like, hey, we're looking for a Jedi. Who's this guy over here? They got to ask him questions, right?
Yeah.
But the way that they let him off the hook humanized him a little bit. And I enjoyed that a lot. It's a small, minute detail, but I think a strength of an episode and also a show depends on those small moments, because together they comprise that momentum. Together they give you that edge of like, oh, I sense what is happening there. And once again, guys, don't mean to sound jaded, but it's a little bit disconcerting, because remember how I told you after the first episode that I'm sort of reliving my prequel era? And it's not to speak to the overall quality or problems of the prequels. It's just one general problem that I had with them is that the movies felt like melted vinyl disc that you put on the disc player and you start playing it, and it's like it's warped and it goes like because it's great, amazing moments intermixed with something that is just casual. It's not finished. It's not finalized. And when it stands out so much, you just feel a little bit of frustration.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I liked your perspective there, Ben, on the ride and what those small character moments mean. That was not it's always fun and this is why we like to do the show and talk to you guys, because I definitely didn't have that read on the Stormtrooper kind of dialogue. My kind of first gut was like, oh, cheesy Stormtrooper dialogue. Like, I don't care. But, you talk about what that really represents. And I think that's kind of fascinating. A way of two people can read a scene and get vastly different things out of it. I love the Blue Pig comment here. I've left it up here for a while now. Or so that Stormtrooper lived and is going to come back in an animated show with robot legs. Confirming we're going to get the cut in half Stormtrooper return. One thing I want to talk about here, I'm going to introduce the topic here, kind of make my points, and I'm going to step away briefly to get a drink. I left my drink in the room and my throat is killing me. So I want to talk about, through this first two episodes, through this third episode, Kenobi's trauma, right? Something that I think they've leaned into really well. Ben kind of talked about it here a little bit with his Leia name slip. The fact that Kenobi is not on his game. He looks broken. He looks heartbroken. He looks scared. He looks confused. He continues to call out to Qui-Gon Jinn for help, right? He literally continues to be like, Qui-Gon Jinn, like, Master, if ever there's a time, I could use you now. I need you now. Could you help me now? Really desperate for that connection. He's lost his family. He's lost his friends, right? He monitors a young boy that he never truly has met in Luke from afar. His human interaction consists of sitting in the desert with binoculars, watching this family of his best friend who he murdered in his head. That's his social circle. That's his interaction. That's his family. And so you see him a little off of his game. He's more likely to snap. He's not trusting people. He's not pulling out his lightsaber. He's not using the Force. He's completely rattled, right? This is not a confident Obi-Wan. This is a completely rattled Obi-Wan. I mean, what's really funny, you can make the argument that when he actually witnessed Vader making the turn, Anakin killing younglings, and then confronting Anakin on Mustafar, he seemed more in control of emotions and more control of the situation than he is 10 years later, because he's been disconnected from the Force. He's been disconnected from the Order. That's weighed on him heavily. So we had the Anakin kind of vision, I'll say, in this episode. We had the obvious trauma of when Vader arrives, what it does to Obi-Wan. I've really loved the representation throughout these 3 episodes. How has it been landing for you? Has it been what you've hoped for? Did you want to see more? Jimmy, do you like the trauma of Kenobi? How's it been hitting for you?
Oh, yeah, dude. The trauma of Kenobi is exactly what I was looking for. Obviously, they're not showing a lot of it, vocally. Like, he's not talking about it. Sure, there's like him asking for Qui-Gon to help him. It's the facial expressions he's giving. And it's such a night and day difference from what he looked like in the prequels, that when he's sitting there in the beginning when he's sitting there on the ship and he's kind of like rubbing his hands together, and this look on his face of just pure guilt and dread. He is dreading everything that is happening right now. And then later on during the fight, so when like he finally like sees Vader, or even before then, when he's like looking out through the slot in the door, and then later at him, it's just pure terror. He's like, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I can't. There's nothing I can do to right this wrong, and it's just pure terror, dread, melancholy. Every sad word I can say to match what he's actually feeling. It's just, I love it.
Yeah. And what really comes across the screen really well is that the juxtaposition of two characters, how Kenobi is very expressive and all the emotions pour out, and he tries to yet again reach out to Anakin or try to influence him with words in any way. And Vader, and again, I think this is one instance where the show is very deliberate in its visual language, and it knows exactly what it's doing. And it's that it reaches that high peak. If you look at if we looked at the pulse of the show, where Vader is very deliberately like small on words, but you feel that bottled tension, you feel that anger, and you feel that hatred. And everything that he does to Kenobi, including that barbecue scene, is I did not expect it at all. It completely caught me off guard. But again, remember I told you guys, I don't judge something in comparison to something else first. I first watch it, I take it for what it is. If it works within the context of the show, it's all fine. And then later on I can compare and say, well, I still like, my Stranger Things better. Doesn't matter. Let's look what's happening here. Is it something that I expected? No, but this is exactly what Anakin would do. He's not there for a chat. He's not there to toy around with you like a cat with a mouse. He wants to kill you, because that's what you did with him. You killed Anakin Skywalker, and now I am this powerful entity, this Vader, and my wife is gone. I have nothing else to live for. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to make you relive that same horrible moment. It's one of the darkest moments out there. Like, I was living in Revenge of the Sith, like, oh my God. Wow. And I'm not rewinding back and thinking, well, how would that fit with A New Hope? Because I grew up with rich. I don't care. Let's analyze. Let's take a look at Vader in the moment here. What is he doing? We're back to the prequel era. And this it satisfies my criteria there. This is who the show is for. And I celebrated internally, like I was watching it by myself, like, oh man, I wish just somebody was there next to me so I could express it, because this is the highlight where all the elements on screen are clearly there and they're all working in concert. The music, the visuals, the dialogue. And once again, you have a peak here, and then the show descends a little bit. It will go, all right. And then another peak there. And that's what the show has been overall. And this one is like one of the greatest moments in the show so far.
And that was one thing just for that scene, just talking about all the PTSD he's already going through. And he's constantly asking for help from Qui-Gon. I was thinking as I was watching the scene, as he's like slowly dragging him through the fire, I was like, if he calls out for Qui-Gon here, I'm going to lose all of my composure, because that would just be the saddest thing. And I don't want to know.
He did that in John Jackson Miller's Kenobi book, right? And that's what a lot of fans, including myself, had issue with. Like, if he's calling out to his master, and we know by that time Qui-Gon Jinn already attained that power to reach out to you from another realm of the Force, why don't you do it in the book? Guys, we're talking about the Legends book from 2013. How it's going to turn out here, we will see. But so far, every time, like you said, Jimmy, every time he reaches out to him, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it sucks. And I mean, I think they're building to it. It's going to happen eventually, or maybe it won't, which I think would just hurt a lot.
I actually would kind of be okay if we didn't see him in a weird way. Like, I assume we will, and it'll be great because we all love, Qui-Gon Jinn. But my assumption, I actually it'd be kind of interesting if they never showed him. Kind of like Obi-Wan kind of got through it on his own almost a little bit. Would be an interesting kind of take there. We've already started to creep into this territory many times throughout the show, and we've even done it in that last topic, talking about Obi-Wan's PTSD a little bit, which is, the obvious conversation point of this episode, the obvious major plot moment is Vader's return and Obi-Wan's confrontation. And we'll start back at the beginning. I know we're skipping some details and some things in between, and we'll maybe pull back and discuss those, but we're already 50 minutes in, so we've got to transition to the big money piece here, which is Kenobi's struggle with Vader. Vader makes his arrival. We have some plot things that happen that brings him to this planet looking for Kenobi, and Vader makes his appearance and just starts going down the alleyway, the city streets. It's not a big city, but the little town streets, and starts just murdering people, just breaking some necks, dragging some people behind him, screaming, force choking some people out of there. He is an absolute monster. The imagery, the visuals are 100% there to show you, like a Michael Myers, like a Jason Voorhees. It's exactly what they're going for. And Kenobi is totally shook. He is completely transfixed. He can't get away. I think some people misunderstood this. I don't know how many people did, but he very clearly is trying to bait Vader away from Leia. His goal is to drag them away from where he's. I think some people were confused why he ran that way. He's going there to get the attention away from Leia so they can escape. And as he, is sitting there, transfixed, he can't take his eyes off Vader. I think is when you get your first realization how different these characters are 10 years later. Again, I think we have this memory. Hayden Christensen's back in the show. It's Ewan McGregor. They have this friendship. You might even think they'd confront and be like, "Oh, you were my old friend." Have some quips back and forth. But like, no. That what the episode did a fantastic job at presenting is the dark side, right? The dark side, you don't get your cake and eat it too. You become completely twisted, morphed, influence. You are no longer. It really added weight to me. I said it earlier, but it really added weight to me when he talks about, I killed Anakin. Anakin Skywalker's dead. He doesn't live anymore. And you're always like, okay, I get it, Vader. You're edgy. But here you see it. He's not Anakin. He's not the person we knew. He's completely hardened, twisted, and darkened by the dark side. And he spent some time just murdering some civilians. Before we transition to the fight, what did you think about that scene? It's been one of the biggest conversation points. I read, Jimmy and I think read this a little differently. I read the Inquisitors as literally kind of freaked out by Vader. I thought they were a little bit like, oh gosh, like he's, maybe I don't want to stay next to this guy for too long. He might literally murder me, right? He is no joke, all business. And I liked earlier in the episode when Reva was like, hey, I'm going to get Kenobi. He's like, yeah, you better, I'm going to kill you. I was like, that's Vader. That's right on brand. That's exactly what he would say. So Vader's hallway scene. We'll call it the Vader hallway scene. The town. What did you think of the Jason Voorhees moment?
Man, I see, like, the Jason Voorhees thing is very accurate, but it also just like gave great homage to like the classic like Clint Eastwood westerns. The big bad and his gang show up. They just busted down the saloon door. They're looking for the ranger or whatever to come out and face him one-on-one in the street. And as the hero does, kind of hiding out, waiting for his moment to pop out. And like, that's just exactly what that felt like. Since, like you said, it wasn't much of a city. It's a very small town, which fits that classic Western, just the one street that goes between like a couple rows of buildings. So that's what I thought that was cool.
That's kind of a cool point.
This is my favorite scene in all of Disney Plus live action Star Wars by far, because it brought it home for me and gave me exactly what I was looking for. And what I'm looking for is nuance, visual storytelling nuance. Because primarily what I see is very surface level, is what you see is what you get. Whether a character is struggling or he's shooting at somebody, it's very, very rudimentary. It's almost like a toy thing. And what I've been missing a lot of in recent Star Wars, including vast majority of sequels, which we all agree have varying degrees of enjoyment with, it's always to sum it all up in one thing is when Finn is standing by his boy's side and the guy goes like this and you see red blood on the helmet. It's like so on the nose and so in your face. Like there's no trust in the audience whatsoever.
Sure.
And the reason that I'm bringing that example, which is an extreme one, versus what we see with Vader here. So he strolls into town with these Inquisitors and he starts looking there, right? And it's a very tense moment there. And I'm thinking, okay, so what is he doing? I know what he's going to do. He's going to pull one of the innocent people, like you said, Jimmy, classical Western motif. And he's going to say, Kenobi or the Jedi, we know you're here. If you don't come out, I'm going to start killing innocents. it doesn't provide you with instant explanation of what's going on. It trusts the audience to understand what is happening. And then what is happening is not calling out Kenobi, because they don't know if it is Kenobi indeed there. Maybe it's just a really powerful Jedi there, right? And as he starts killing them, and the first one that goes down, it's not the father, it's the son. And I'm saying, wait, hold on a second. Oh no. Oh my God. It's Anakin or Vader killing younglings again, or killing Force sensitives again. It's not even about Kenobi. Kenobi is just a diversion for the audience. What is happening there, we see the true villainy of Vader. And I really enjoyed how that particular scene was crafted. I'm like, oh man, why can't I have, this is where Greedy Benjamin came out. Why can't I have my Star Wars show to be filled with this kind of nuance and trust into the audience? Because when you're thrown in the middle of the original trilogy, A New Hope, you don't understand what is happening. As a kid, 7, 10-year-old,
Sure,
you're
yeah.
figuring things out as you're watching it. And it's a little bit grating when you're watching a show. It's like, oh, by the way, but this character is here, but let us explain to you. Oh, but maybe, I always come back and I have retrospect and I talk to myself and I say, Ben, maybe you're just going out of it. Maybe you are indeed growing old and it's just the way it's supposed to be. This is the new visual language, the way that
Boomer,
kids,
yeah.
right? Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe it's just boomer me being too analytical. Who knows? It's a possibility.
I have a lot of thoughts on a couple things. So let me take a half step back. We've had a lot of good conversation in chat. One thing I noticed is one of our viewers, Dylan here, one of our subscribers, hasn't been liking the show as much. He called out a couple things he didn't like, which is fine, by the way. You don't have to like any of these shows. We could go on for hours about the things we don't like about certain Star Wars projects. I would maybe caution a couple of these, though, Dylan, as we go. Maybe some of these will become more satisfactory for you. So on the rewriting of the Grand Inquisitor story, I'm not sure he's dead yet. We'll see. Right. So I think the episode intentionally cut off Reva before she answered the question on the Grand Inquisitor. Reva was like, the Grand Inquisitor, and Vader was like, shut up. I don't care about the Grand Inquisitor.
He was just like, that's not what we're talking about.
So we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but we'll kind of see how that fleshes out in the next 3 episodes. You talk here a little bit about Obi-Wan being a little passive, not using the Force, not using Jedi mind tricks. I think they're just showing that he's been in hiding for 10 years. He can't use the Force. And so he's completely unpracticed. He hasn't flexed that muscle. He's weak.
I mean, he struggled to use the Force to get Leia to stop her from falling. So, and when you look at it too, because like Luke came back from cutting himself off of the Force for probably the same amount of years, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly. Used the Force in such a strong way that it killed him because he was so out of practice. So like, he's got to try to work it back up. We even see that, when he fights Vader, he is rusty.
He is we'll talk about the fight later. And then your final comment about what's the third sister's, craze with capturing Obi-Wan. I think there's a lot to tell about Reva's story still. I don't know where they're going. I still think she's a wild card. And let's see maybe how it fleshes out at the end. And maybe it's more satisfying for you.
We're going to have to wait until the end of episode 5 to probably figure that out.
And maybe it doesn't land for you still, Dylan, but we appreciate you stopping by and talking with us anyway as we go through here. Now,
all valid points. I will say all valid points,
You can like or not like whatever you don't. It's all opinions here. I didn't like Doctor Strange 2, and everyone seemed to like that movie. And people told me like, oh, it's the first non-formulaic Marvel movie. And I'm like, that's not the reason I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I didn't care about any of the characters. They weren't interested. Anyway, regardless, see, I'm going off my own rant here.
I didn't see it and I hate it, guys. Okay?
I want to talk about Ben's points a second ago. And I love how, you read that scene different with Vader going down, because it is probably one of the most iconic scenes. This is going to be one of the most iconic Vader scenes, I think, in cinema, definitely. Right? This is going to be one of those scenes we reflect on. I read it another way I kind of interpreted it was like, okay, is he amping himself up? Meaning Vader's kind of getting in the zone, getting ready for a fight. And how does he kind of juice himself up as a dark side user? He murders and terrorizes innocents. That's like his kind of pregame, right? He's over there just like walking down the hallway, just grabbing people out of windows, screaming, breaking their necks. He's kind of revving himself up. He's being filled with that hatred, filled with that evil as he goes to battle. I kind of almost read it like that as well. Regardless, we get to another, I think, visually really interesting. That's right, Dylan. 6.5 at best. That's right, my man. We get it here. It wasn't good. It was mid. It was a mid-tier movie. I'm kidding. I know Jimmy liked it. A lot of other folks
It was
did as well.
Doctor Strange 2 was fine.
We're not going to get off target here. We get to the dark part of the desert. Now, I was watching this in a really dark room at the time, and I thought from a visual standpoint, this whole sequence was really cool. And before I talk about this, I saw this on Twitter today and thought it was really, really fun, or a really cool interpretation of a fan of the whole Obi-Wan versus Kenobi fight. And it starts with the running, right?
Okay.
And this person says Obi-Wan just running when he sees Vader, and Vader not being able to run after him is funny. Like, because you Obi-Wan's running and Vader's just kind of strolling, right? He's not sprinting because he can't, right? And so it talks here, it says, it also makes sense Vader's physical capabilities have diminished to the point where he can't even run. And you never see him running in any of the movies. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He just has to walk. He's not fast. He's a tank. He fights like 1-2. He hammers at Obi-Wan with his lightsaber instead of doing any cool prequel level acrobatics. You know, it's one-handed. He uses the Force to knock things over and drag people and to overpower Obi-Wan. He's basically a husk of a man being kept alive by a suit and the dark side of the Force, and they displayed that perfectly. And I'm like, whoever this user was nailed it, right? I think that's a really good interpretation of what we saw. And it started with that opening chase where, like, Obi-Wan's kind of like, oh my gosh, where is he? You know, and then Vader's just kind of strolling, just like chilling. You see the glow of his buttons, you know, as he's kind of entering these dunes.
He's like, what's up?
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was really cool. I really liked that. And I thought this user had a really good way of explaining what you're seeing. Vader's not going to be like, he's not going to be like Terminator, to your point earlier, but he just can't do the run like in Terminator 2.
And it's the perfect Halloween reference, you know, like he sees Vader, runs the opposite direction, and then Vader's there again. You know, that's what's terrifying about it. Because for a guy that walks,
he turned Batman for a second.
Yeah. What?
He turned Batman for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like all those memes is like Michael Myers when he's not on camera and he's just like bolting across the field.
Yep, exactly.
And it's great.
So I loved that kind of setup. And then we have I'll call it a lightsaber. I'll call it
it was a
Obi-Wan just running for his life. Okay, because and I don't think this is unintentional. I believe this was completely the director's intent. It was not Obi-Wan fighting. It was Obi-Wan trying to survive. He had no interest.
Yeah.
He was not.
It was not a duel.
No, it was not a duel. It was a bludgeoning. It was self-defense.
He literally waited until the very last second to ignite that lightsaber. He's been struggling with it for 3 episodes. You know, he's I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I have no choice.
This is fight 1. Just my personal opinion. This is fight 1.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely.
We will see. Obi-Wan will come to more inner peace, come to more hope, maybe through communing with Qui-Gon, maybe from conversation. You know, maybe through the actions of the next couple episodes, he'll kind of find that. I love the way he described the Force, and I think he'll have that where the lights are off and you're scared and someone turned the light off. I think he's going to have that feeling. And so, and then we'll see him really match up with Vader in a more, and it will not be the acrobatic fight. I rewatched Revenge of the Sith fight scene last night, actually, as I was making a little fun edit. And that fight scene is just ridiculously acrobatic. They are flipping and spinning and jumping. And it's amazing. I love it. Yeah, I love it. We'll never see it again, though. Because that's not who Vader is. Vader is a tank. He is not any sort of nimble
He's
man.
Not Anakin. Yeah.
He's not Anakin. Exactly. You see that shown again. And so that whole scene for me, the only thing I didn't like, and I talked about this in my review, and I say don't like very loosely, it was something that didn't land for me as well as the rest of the episode, is I felt the emotion of the music was not indicative of the moment. Funny enough, it reminded me of A New Hope, where that fight scene had I had the same feeling. Like the score, the cinematics didn't really build up to me as an audience member how big this was. You could argue the prequels go heavy. The prequels go heavy. They're like Duel of the Fates. It's like flaming chorus. Like there is no subtlety in that score. It's all the awe. And I didn't feel that with this. Now, part of me expects that was intentional. This wasn't a duel. This was just, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. I think maybe in their more emotional finale, we might get some more swelling score, a little more heart. I thought that was the only thing the episode lacked, and not the show. I think the show's had good score moments. I think this moment in particular, the score did not match what I was kind of seeing on screen. That'd be my one nitpick of the episode. I'm a big music guy, and we all music's very preferential. You like
I would
what
say
you
in
like.
general, Josh, overall, even the definitive Kenobi's theme, like I would say none of it is really memorable to me or catchy. It's like, okay, it's there.
As the music major,
Yep, that's true.
I think I like the Kenobi theme. It's very different, and I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, it's very much like the Dark Knight theme, where like there's no like hit, you know?
Yeah, I get
it's
you.
all. It's like you just know what it is when you hear it.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of fair since Obi-Wan's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree. There's like barely a score in this fight, which I think perfectly represents the fight in A New Hope because there's like hardly any music for that either. I think like 2 or 3 of the cuts to that fight, there's no music. They're just fighting. So like that's interesting.
Jim, just to distract, just a tiny bit, to quickly mention this. I was shocked what they were able to pull off with Rogue One on such a short notice. I think it's the best Disney era score to date.
It's a really good score.
Yeah. Michael Giacchino is a brilliant composer. His work has
killed it, man.
The Batman.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
It's insane.
And Ratatouille, he does such a weird
great movie.
One comment before I pass it back to Jimmy. Jimmy just talked about how there's barely any score in that fight. I think back to The Dark Knight Rises, where he fights Bane for the first time in the sewer, and there's basically no music at all. I almost liked that better though, where it was very empty and echoey. This one had a little bit of remnants of a score that kind of like pulled you out. I wouldn't have minded if it was just pure lightsaber hammering and nothing, not a single note. I think that might have worked better for me too. Almost more of a reverent fight. Like
I would have liked the core, just that low chorus that we get. I think that would have been good too. But thank you for all of Blue Milk's comments because we're like leaving out like a good chunk of the episode.
So much to talk about. We're already an hour 10 minutes in.
I know.
Oh my god!
I got another hour, guys. I'm good to go.
Well, I want to start that off then because like when we meet Tala, I was just like, this is not what I was expecting to happen, but I'm okay with it. I didn't expect her to be the informant, and that part I wanted to talk about because it leads more into when Leia and Kenobi are talking, and like Kenobi just keeps losing his patience with her to that point where they're hiding and they're waiting for them to get the call to come over, and she starts apologizing to him. She's like, I'm sorry, I ran away. I didn't mean it. I just do it all the time. And I'm like, wow, she is really upset now. And like, Kenobi's not making it any better for her. So he had to just sit there and be like, look, it's all right. We're going to get through this. It's not your fault that this happened. And we meet one of the greatest characters ever, the loading droid Ned B. I will die for this droid. I love him so much.
I'm a fan.
And the fact that like, Leia she keeps that same attitude she had when she thanked the I'm completely forgetting the protocol droid.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
She's like, thank you. And everyone's like, why are you thanking a droid? She like tries to interact with them. It's like, this is Lola, say hi. And they're like, no, he can't talk. She's like, well, what if he has something to say? I was just like, let's go. I love this droid. Her universe has a shirt with Ned B on it. I'm buying it. I love it so much. If anything happens to that droid, I will not be okay.
I like that. He was cute. He was very Star Wars-esque. There's a great legacy in Star Wars of droids. Like we talked about. I know people weren't here for it earlier, so I will shamelessly plug in this again because this came today.
Chopper.
It's your boy Chopper. Okay, Star Wars. No, jokes aside, you guys see the Lego R2D2 above me. When I was a kid, R2 was like the best character for me. I loved R2D2. I thought he was the best thing ever. Like honestly, Star Wars has a great legacy of making droids and side creatures and characters really memorable and cute in a really endearing way, and Nebby was kind of another example of that. So I will agree with you there,
he was ready to throw hands too. He just casually, they're like, oh, he's just a loading droid, he's hiding a hammer.
He reminded me of that scene where C-3PO is being brought on board of the Jawa's tank or transport. And he directed other droids there. Once again, it's just something about the aesthetics and performance of the droid that just gives you that vintage vibe to it.
And there are still scenes in the trailers where Ned B's throwing stormtroopers and he gets a blaster. So I want to see what he does next.
Yeah, and then on this has been a point of contention as well in the community about how did we find out Anakin was Vader? How did Reva find that out? Right? I think she was spared in Order 66, or maybe by spared, maybe she hid and her friends all got butchered, and she went. I don't know what they're gonna do here. I mean, Reva's whole story is building towards something. Whatever that payoff was will very much will influence how I feel about these episodes. I know a lot of times Ben talks about how, like, I'm watching it right now in the context of this episode. How did it work in the context of this episode? And that is true. And that does matter, right? Because you can't have this terribly written character for 6 episodes and be like, well, at the end they did something cool, so now I love them. It doesn't work like that. But when a character is being, in my opinion, when a character is being crafted and built around intrigue, there is an intrigue factor. They are playing it up. They played it up in this episode. They played it up in the past. They had her look at the wall writing of the Jedi in the underground tunnels for a long time, which hints at a Jedi background. So I just have to see what they're going to do with this character for me to judge these moments. If at the end she's like, oh, I just used deductive reasoning, it had to be Anakin. Okay, that's kind of weird, right? But if she has maybe some, interesting plot point or interesting way she discovered it, it could completely change my perception. So my answer here is, let me see in 3 episodes, and I'll tell you how I feel. It's not a cop out. It just, I don't know. I can't speculate.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with the same comment because, and I told Josh this a while ago. When it comes to these shows, I can theorize what I want to happen, and it's never going to be anywhere close to what does happen. So I'm not smart enough to guess this stuff.
Oh man, no.
I think Giafet had a comment that I think is pretty close to what will probably. I'm back. His comment here, I think that's probably close to what we will get. Yeah. However, if the series as a whole ends and there's just no answer to that, I have no idea.
I'm hoping. And this is, we just talked about how I don't want to speculate, how every time we have a theory it doesn't work.
Star Wars jacket speculation.
But what I would tell you what I would like, and some fans might not like this, is I would like it if, I would almost like it that when, I don't think Vader does not know Reva knows who he is, right? He doesn't know. Now, he does allude in stuff that he's been watching her, right? So it does beg the question, what has been his interest with her, right? Maybe we'll find this out. Vader notoriously, when people know he's Anakin or bring up that he's Anakin, he murders them. That's like his thing, right? So I am fully expecting that if that comes to light, if he finds that out, he should react the same. His reaction should be that violent. He shouldn't be like, interesting. Or if he pretends it's not a big deal, the minute she turns her back, he better try to kill her, because that would just be, if he does anything different, I think that'd be a little out of character for Vader. So that would be my only request there, is if Vader finds out she knows, he better react with the kind of rage I would expect.
And I think that's what will happen, because even in the comics, there was one comic strip, I can't remember which one it was, where there was an Imperial officer that was psychotically in love with Vader, and she was like, I'm gonna be his favorite and he's gonna love me, and she snuck into his meditation chamber when his helmet was off, and he just looks up at her and just lightsaber right through the chest like it was nothing. I was just like, oh.
So as long as that, and we'll see how they play with that, but I just won't know about how she knows until they tell us.
What do you think, Ben?
So for me, she is, and I'm sad to say it, guys, at this point, remember, I enjoy watching things in real time. And for me, I never believe that any story or show needs to rely on a plot twist or a big surprise. If it's there, I don't mind it. If it's well crafted, I don't mind it at all. But it doesn't require one.
Sure.
So, and I told you how, for me, it's all about the journey, not about the end. And it starts feeling like it's too late for me to get anything out of Reva. Once again, I was the first guy to jump on the defense, my Facebook group. I created a post loving her, guys. This group is not about politics, but we were supporting her, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing, because it felt like the right thing to do. She is not being developed. Every character of every story, we need to understand what they are driven by, what they desire, what they want. We just know that she tells the audience that she wants something. She wants to get that power, that position, for reasons. And I feel that it's an instance of telling but not showing. And the rule of cinema, the rule of storytelling is show but don't tell. And at this point, again, she's like it's like a nagging thing, like a little wound at the top of your mouth, and you just keep tonguing it, oh man, it's a little distracting there. And her, and along with the rest of that's why literally half of the show, the whole supposed intrigue with the Inquisitors, how they're bickering and fighting amongst themselves, it's just not coming through. So the whole idea of where she's gonna fall in as far as Vader is concerned. Hey, is she good? How does she know his name? What is she like? It's not even a question in my mind. Like, I don't care, because right when the show kicks in and you throw in the first episode, things need to happen. And I always bring this example when people tell me, well, Ben, she's just not enough on the screen yet, and you're just judging it too harshly. More time needs to be spent in order for us to convey or relay the emotion or the character motivation. Sure. And I said, well, no. When you have a story crafted by a master, you can convey everything the character needs and inform the audience 5 minutes. Example, Joker. We're introduced with Joaquin Phoenix's entirely new treatment of the character. And you know essentially everything you need to know about this character in the first 5 minutes of the movie. And when he sits there in front of the window and he's doing this thing, and there's so much context and nuance going on there. So don't come at me and tell me, like, Ben, I think you're being too... No, I'm not being too harsh. I'm just being honest. Remember when we talked about how this show is going to come out, I'm going to measure it by a whole different set of criteria that I do with other shows. Because, like, okay, here's Mandalorian. All right, here's, Book of Boba Fett. This is Kenobi we're talking about. When there's praise is due, I'll be the first guy in line to say it's there. As far as Reva and the whole connection with Vader, don't care.
We shall see. Yeah. Are you guys saying Reva? I'm just curious. I've been saying Reva. Am I saying that
Reva?
Wrong? I've been saying it Reva, or have you been saying
I've been saying Reva.
Yeah, Reva. I'm kind of curious about that. I should listen better in the episode, see how they're saying it, because I was thinking about that as we were talking about that. I've had a totally different kind of feeling about her character in a lot of the community, and Jimmy and I were kind of talking about this yesterday. I'm legit curious. I feel like she hasn't had that much screen time, and let me just clarify. I'm not saying, Ben, that is an excuse. I just mean, like, a lot of folks have said, like, she's on the screen all the time. Like, a lot of people are like, she's a big character. I'm like, honestly, every episode, I feel like we don't spend that much time with her. Maybe I'm just, just remembering the highlights and I'm forgetting.
Let me think here. There are 56 minutes in episode 1, 48 in episode 2. Of the those two episodes, she's been in for 18 minutes.
Okay. So, whoa, I mean, there you
really?
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a lot.
So,
I mean, for
an hour and 20 minutes,
nearly 2 hours.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot on screen.
I'd have to time it compared to
supporting character or side character or backdrop character. I would say she's a side character.
I would say she's the antagonist.
In the first 2 episodes, she is. I would say, and before we introduce Vader. Regardless, my point is I don't know. Maybe she hasn't had the same impact on me that she has other fans, and we'll see. Maybe in the final episode, what happens is Obi-Wan gets pushed out a window, and it's Reva versus Vader 1v1, and we're like, oh man, I wish I could have seen her fight Obi-Wan. I mean, I guess if the fight's badass, maybe I'd still love it. I don't know, but maybe like then I'd be like, oh yeah, she really kind of distracted me from Kenobi. I have yet to feel like she has somehow distracted me from the main character, but it is what it is. We shall see, and we'll take it from there. Now, we are an hour and 20 minutes in because this episode had so much to talk about. And as we get going, we just think of other things. I want to talk about the end of the fight. In particular, when Vader's just like kind of done toying with Obi-Wan, he's like, okay, like, let me just overwhelm you with the Force. Okay. Because I am in my prime and you are an old hermit, right? I'm not. He picks him up, dumps some flammable material on the ground, lights it up, and is like, hey, Obi-Wan, now it's your turn. Drops him in the fire, right? Which at first I was like, whoa. But the best part is just dragging him through the fire at him.
Shawarma like, deluxe, bro.
He's just kind of like, hey, and just staring at him. And they have the great shot. Everyone's doing things. I put it in a thumbnail yesterday. Like, it's Vader standing there with the fire around him, just staring at Obi-Wan. And then eventually kind of becoming, like, again, I think he's pretty enraged at this point, just pushes him back and it puts out the flame. He puts out the flame because he just like angrily pushes him away and like puts the flame.
Wait, that
out.
Was Vader?
Yeah. Vader.
He throws his hand up and blows out the flame. He's like, I know it's too easy. We're not done.
And he's like, he's like to the stormtroopers. He's like, just bring it back to me. Like, I want him to come over here. I'm going to play with him some more, which is like super, big boss. I thought before we talk about the escape, I want to focus on that. I thought that was really raw and really well done. I liked that quite a bit. I liked that scene.
He's going to be brutal in episode 4, and I'm talking about Obi-Wan. Like, he's just going to be all kinds of messed up now.
Can I say something before I pass it over to Ben? You know, we as fans, me included, I'm a dark side guy. I talk all the time. I love the Sith. I love, like, to me, the most interesting thing about Star Wars is typically the villains. You know, it's such an interesting. I love to see characters that aren't me. Right, it's fun to watch a villain because it's a whole different look into a different way of life, a different persona, a different idea. And in games, when you have that choice of, oh, can I be a good guy or a bad guy? I always play the first time through as a bad guy because it's not what I would do, and it's kind of fun to role play in that environment. So I do want to drive this home, though. Something I was thinking about on my way home. As we see Vader going down the street, just killing innocents, and we see him, you know, torturing Obi-Wan, I want you to actually stop and think, like, take off our Star Wars hat for a second and go to a dark place with me of how sick you actually have to be to and evil to just murder people, to just break people's necks, to just drag them behind you screaming, people who didn't even just looked at you funny, right? Or Ben's perception, maybe these people were force sensitive or very minorly force sensitive, and he could sense it because he's so strong. Whatever he was doing, maybe, like, I thought he was trying to pump himself up by just killing some innocents. Regardless of all of that, you have to be so given over to the dark side, so given over to evil to just indiscriminately kill people. When that happens in the real world, we sit here in horror, like, how could someone do that? How that is the most heinous thing ever. And then we watch this villain do it on screen, and I don't know if sometimes we realize the weight of what he's doing. You know, I think we can kind of be desensitized with, like, hey, this is just, I'm doing a second. I'm like, this is Vader's hallway scene.
It's just Vader being Vader.
This is Vader being just awesome. And it's like, wait a second, though. Like, if we actually appreciate what Vader is and what he's demonstrated in this episode, it's how far he's been twisted by the dark side. It's how evil he is. And something I've said several times, and Ben has echoed it, he's not Anakin anymore. Right? It's not like Anakin gone bad. It's not like Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire, where he's got the dark hair and he's, you know, dancing and being mean. This is a whole nother level. And I think sometimes we don't stop and appreciate what they're showing with the Vader character, what the Vader character is doing. You know, he's not a mustache twirling. I mean, he's a murder of innocence. Drag your best friend on fire through searing hot ground to you. He is very, very given over the dark side. So I just wanted to appreciate that for a second and maybe put some context there of what is actually being seen on screen, if that makes sense. So I don't know. What did you think, Ben, of the flaming Kenobi kebab, the barbecue?
I think it completely works. The shawarma deluxe, it completely works. It's, I said it in the chat room. It's, you know, every hero becomes a villain if he lives long enough, or don't ever meet your heroes twice. And this is my biggest gripe with Star Wars audience, where they're so hands-on with their heroes and they're unwilling for them to change or transform, to undergo a human experience of feeling different, being in a completely different emotional and spiritual state, like Luke Skywalker in episode 8, the reason why I loved it so much. So here, we understand that, like you said, Josh, Anakin is gone. He's dead. He's nowhere to be found. What we see here now is fully Vader unleashed.
Yep.
And like you said, you proposed the question, hey, let's stop being fans for a second and let's go inside of the Vader's mind, that really dark place. What is going on there? What's cooking up? And this is going to lead to our conversation with the Grand Escape. I feel that what Vader is doing, feels that he's completely justified, that the Jedi or the Force sensitive are scourge, because they are the ones who started it. They are the ones who preached them peace, but became military commanders overnight. They are the ones who told them to spy on the Chancellor behind his back and deliver the information back to the Order. They're the two-faced Jedi Order. And he felt complete. And every villain...
Preach, baby. No.
And every villain kind of, in a way, believes in his cause, that he's right. Like, it's the most overused example, but Hitler perhaps in a way believed in his cause. What he was doing for his people is righteous. Is it justifiable to us? Of course not.
Well, that's what makes the scariest villains, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
That's the most disturbing thing about them. Yes.
The power of conviction, what I'm doing is right.
Yes.
And that scene there, like I told you, what happens there with the fire and the suffering Kenobi, I generally don't subscribe to the idea of like, it's like poetry, it rhymes. It's like, it's complete bullshit to me. Like, I don't buy it for a second. Like, come on, dude. It's like, just tell us that you didn't have a better idea and you had a second Death Star and everybody bought it in Return of the Jedi. It's like, it was good. Like, chill with that, man. Like, come on.
I like that. You don't. Yeah, I get you.
I don't buy that idea. It's silly to me from cinematic standpoint, because the storyteller's only aim should be to tell a powerful story and not get into this kind of like esoteric, nitty and gritty philosophical musings about screenshots, how you're making these comparisons and parallels. Like, get out of town, man. But here, what they're doing here, the parallel actually works. Not because it's poetry, it rhymes, because this is exactly what Vader would do. That vengeful, bitter, twisted man. He's like, this is what you did to me. And at the end of it all, we mentioned how Vader feels about the Jedi, how he feels betrayed by Kenobi, how he feels them making him spy on the Chancellor, Palpatine.
Not letting him marry Padme, has to live in secret.
That's what I'm coming to. At the end of the day, all of it comes down to his wife being dead.
Yeah.
And that's why he's dead inside. Nothing else matters. And the only person to bring him out of that sleep, of that dark slumber, is his own flesh and blood, Luke. So here he's like, you made me suffer, I'm gonna make you suffer in return. Perfect scene.
I think one of the best moments between those two characters we've seen.
Yeah,
arguably in their history. I think it was one of the most powerful, especially because the power dynamic had so greatly shifted. This was a helpless Obi-Wan and a fully enraged and primed Vader. I thought that was a very fascinating dynamic. Jimmy, did you like the Obi-Wan barbecue?
I said earlier, I thought it was
stunned him into silence.
Always wants to just cut me off every time. I thought it was terrifying. I thought it was perfectly. Vader's like, you're familiar with this one, I'm sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people were confused, like with the rescue. You know, when Ned comes and picks him up, everyone's like, why didn't Vader just pull him back? You know, why? You know, Vader has been waiting 10 years for this. Why did he not? I was like, I'm always going to say plot armor, and I'm fine with that. But realistically, Vader a lot of times like just knows when he's like, I should wait, and I'll wait on this. We've seen it. He does it so many times where like someone gets away and he just kind of stares.
It's true.
And then he turns and walks away. He's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to dwell on this, you know. Whereas Kylo freaks out and destroys stuff.
Yeah. Throws a tantrum.
But Vader definitely let him go. Like, there's no question about that. He could have just been like, you can come with the robot too. It's fine.
I kind of read this, and Ben's going to get on to me here because Ben's always big on, you know, this is where Ben's going to slap my wrist, but that's okay. I'll say it anyway. I read that scene 100% that he let Obi-Wan go. He didn't care. He could have absolutely got to him because his life had purpose again. That's how I read that scene. I think he was like, yep.
Like Joker Batman.
Yep, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And I am so much stronger than him. This is going to be fun. Man, I'm just killing him easy. I'm holding him over. I'm cooking him alive. Like, this is nothing. You know?
Yeah, it's almost like he's like, no, I shouldn't kill you yet. You know I'm here. I want you to go back and practice.
I also
then come back and give me a real fight.
I think he saw Obi-Wan and how off his game was, how distressed he was. I think he could sense Obi-Wan's unbalance. I think he was feeding on it. I think he was loving every minute of it. I took it 100% as he was not upset at all. To Jimmy's point, he wasn't like killing a stormtrooper next to him or screaming or trying to force grab him. He just sat there because I think he was totally cool with it. I think he was like, yep, this is what I need. Think about if you're Vader. What is there left in the galaxy at this point?
Mm-hmm.
You've killed, conquered, done it all. The most powerful being left in the universe. One person left to blame. If I kill him now, this pained existence I'm going to suffer with for the next, however many years gives me nothing to feed my hatred, my anger. And I totally viewed it as he was completely interested in letting him get away. Now, you may say to yourself, well, then Josh, why does he just easily dismiss him, in A New Hope? Well, the stakes have changed in A New Hope. Things have changed in A New Hope. The calculus has shifted, number one. And number two, the ending of their confrontation here, maybe Kenobi does something at the end that really jars Vader. Like, oh, he got the upper hand on me a little bit. I assume the last fight is going to be Obi-Wan's let's go to Return of the Jedi, where Luke and Vader are having their confrontation, and he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Like, we've yet to see that on screen, because when they met in Mustafar, Obi-Wan was like, oh man, you've turned, time to kill you. Like, he was not.
He said, I will do what I must.
In this fight, all Obi-Wan said was like, man, you've become a monster. Like, that was it. Like, that, there was no like, hey, you were my, I loved you, man. You're my brother. Like, I surrendered myself to kill me. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even care anymore. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. So the next fight, I think you'll see Anakin, like Obi-Wan, almost extend the olive branch. I think that's going to piss Vader off. I think that's really going to ruin the fun for him. It's going to make him remember who he was, make him remember being Anakin, and then he's going to be over the game. I think right now, this is his purpose now. He's got a purpose to live again. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that to me was intentionally shot that way. He could have easily got to him. He didn't want to. He's cool. He's happy in his Vader.
And Obi-Wan has to put up now because Reva has Leia now. So he's got to have to practice and get up to speed so he can go rescue her.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's very hard to judge because, Josh, thanks for reminding us all that, the show is not over. There's still more content and context to come in order to make that link with Return of the Jedi. But for me, it'll be interesting to see how this resolves, because when we meet Vader and Kenobi in Return of the Jedi, Vader steps into the fight saying, no, I'm going to prove to you now that I'm the master. He has a lot to prove there, and he doesn't prove anything in that fight. Because when I was a kid, I used to not like that fight a lot. I was like, it's more primitive. It's no doubt about it. It's a more primitively made scene. When I became an adult and started studying film and I watched it over and over again, I found things to marvel at. For example, no other Star Wars movie ever shows lightsaber fights like this, and I believe that was also intentional, partially because Alec Guinness was an aging actor, but partially also because of the logic and intent that went into crafting that duel. They're literally holding these sabers by the hilt like they have no weight, and it's tapping game. I tap you once, there is no musculature or force or the impact behind it. Right. I strike you once, you're gone. That's all it is. And until the very end, Kenobi comes unscathed until he completely gives in and gives his life to the service of Luke Skywalker and everyone else. He is far superior than Vader ever was in every scene. So here, we are seeing much earlier Vader, but we still have to remember it's 10 years past Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. So we already see that Kenobi is a different person, and we also see that Vader is indeed a different person.
Yep.
Perhaps you could say, yes, he still needs a kind of goal, an aim. He needs to hate and shit on Kenobi a little bit more before he lets him off the hook. But I don't know why. If that was indeed the intention, I couldn't read it in that scene, because what I read was I was in my prequel mode watching that. It's like yeah. It's like watching the ending of Mandalorian season 2. Like, look, deep fake face. Like you're getting me to that very, very high pitched moment where it's brilliant stuff. Like I said earlier, everything leading up to it has nuance, and it's shot by shot, frame by frame. I understand intellectually what the director is doing. Sure. And she has that craftsmanship. And then you get to that point, and Kenobi just ends up on the other side of the fire, and that is like, he escapes. He's there over there. In my mind, again, maybe I'm reading into it, and I'm completely off course, guys. But the way that I'm just playing around with it in my mind is Vader wants to kill him. He demonstrates it in the beginning of that fight. He's not there to play cat and mouse with you. Why? Because there's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of showing off and posturing. I'm gonna do this. There is no great monologue that he throws on Vader. He doesn't spit bars in front of him. It's like, I'm gonna do this and that to you, stomp all over your feet, you cut off my legs. None of that stuff is happening. He's going straight for kill. He's going for murder. Again, I'm judging it only in real time. It will definitely shift with the next episode and with the following episodes as well. And then I'll revise it guys, this is where it goes. It's too early to tell. But at this point in the game, bro, he's right there. The bullseye. Aren't you going to go for him? Next shot, Kenobi's safely away. I'm like, oh man.
Well, I mean, to me, and before I pass it for Jimmy, because I know I waxed and waned for like an hour there.
Yeah.
If he wanted to kill him when he picked him up with the Force, he could have just pulled him right into his lightsaber. He decided to put stuff up, burn him. He's playing. I mean, that's just how I read it. He's playing.
Yeah.
Jimmy, did you? I mean, any other comments on the Kenobi kebab? Is that what we're calling him for now?
The specific on the fight, yes.
The exit, I should say. We're specifically talking about the exit of the
I
fight.
think it's more so a combination of a couple of things. I do think it's still the whole I don't want you to die yet. I want this to last. But I also think it's more of since a random shot came out of nowhere and killed one of the stormtroopers, that's more of I should let him go. I need to see where he's going. I want to see what else I can find. He's got people out here. I should let Kenobi lead me to them. There we go. I think someone in the chat I think made the same comment, and I was just like, that is exactly what I was thinking, because I was like, like if I'm trying to go 1v1 and I realize he's getting help, I'm like, well, what's he doing with this other person? Who does he know and why? Why is he here to begin with? I need answers,
One thing it sounds like we all kind of agree with is Vader was not upset at the end. So there was definitely some sort of
unsatisfied.
Acceptance. Yeah.
I will go with unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Okay.
More to come. Episode 4 next week. We've talked for an hour and 35 minutes about this.
And I still got 2 quick points to make.
We skipped some stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
We got 2 very nice Easter eggs in this episode.
Yep.
These will be real quick, but we got the name drop for Quinlan. He's still alive. And I know there's a lot of talk about him potentially showing up. I think
Blue Milk called out.
O'Shea Jackson, is that his name?
Yes, O'Shea Jackson. Or
there's talk that he could be playing Quinlan. I'm like, I have no idea. Who will that? But because if Quinlan's in this, I want to know if they're going to tie in some Dark Disciple stuff. I want to know what happened to Asajj and how he's dealing with that, because they were a thing. But also, this is a fun one, and I think this personally for me will confirm it that Corran Horn is now canon again. And that is because you had the kid and the mom.
Yep.
Those names drop. We got that. But carved into the wall in Arbesh is... What a way to cut me off, right? Written on the wall is Valen Halcyon.
Yep.
I totally skipped on that. Wait, are you telling me Corran Horn is canonized?
So the little kid that Haja helped escape,
right?
Yep.
He's credited by the name Corran, just Corran.
Oh,
the mother is not in the credits, but on IMBD, she's listed for being in 3 episodes under the name of Niche, Nyche, which is Corran's mother's name. They're trying to get back to Corellia, which is where Corran was born. And now we have Valen Halcyon. I know there's like a couple names that intertwine with Corran's father, and those are it.
Yep.
I think we're going to get Corran Horn in this series, guys. I'm just saying, it's going to be pretty great. Don't talk to me about it.
Dope.
Or definitely...
Talk to Ben. He knows more about Corran
I
than
want
do.
season 2 already.
Okay, so actually, funny you say that. There was a tweet that broke right before the stream, probably about 30 minutes before, where supposedly, and this is by the source here is Making Star Wars, who...
Oh, yeah.
I think is I don't know if they're, if they're considered insiders or trustworthy, and sometimes people get bad info. But supposedly, as I pull up the tweet here for you guys to see, let me go ahead and share the screen. I have mixed feelings about this, if it's true, and we will talk about that. But supposedly, Obi-Wan Kenobi 2 is happening. It's unknown if it'll be sold as a second season or not. So the indication that you might be like, what do you mean a second season or not? That means one of 2 things. Either this episode is going to end abruptly and be like, that's part 1. Like, this is the first 6 episodes of part 1. We're going to get 6 more episodes for part 2, which could be cool. Or the next season of Kenobi is going to be like 10 years in the future, 5 years in the future, and it's just another moment in Kenobi's life. Maybe the next season is just 3 episodes of him just being a sand farmer, right? And it's just him sitting by himself. That's how I read that. It doesn't mean it'll be a second season. It means it'll be like a part 2 in some way. I don't know. Me, as a super Star Wars fan who loves all new things Star Wars and loves to make videos about them and gets excited, I would be a little lukewarm on this just because I don't know how you can give us more story and it still it's hard. Let me just say it that way. It's hard to tell 12 good episodes. It's easier to keep it clean and go 6, but I could be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And to close my point, because Castle made a good point, he said IMBD isn't really reliable for casting, which is true. However, and this is just what I'm thinking here. So all of this casting stuff for IMBD was out before the show came out. In the actual credits of the episode, the little kid is listed as Corin. So that's actually in the show. His mother is not. I will say that. The mother is not listed in the credits of the show. And so, maybe she's not, and maybe this is just trying to allude to that, because IMBD also says that Ice Cube is in this show. So I'm waiting to see if that's true. I think that'll be awesome. I want to see how that's gonna work.
But we'll take it with the greatest salt.
I am open to it. Yeah. But for me, until the season ends, Corin Horn
straight
is
from Coruscant.
Straight from Coruscant.
Straight out of Coruscant.
Coruscant canon.
That's it. One thing I will say is that Star Wars has been known, especially in recent projects, to do name drops and allusions to characters past and them not be done the same way. Like we've seen in the end of Bad Batch with the cloning facility called
Tantus.
Thank you. And that's obviously not the same Mount Tantus that we know from Dark, Heir to the Empire, but
I think it is. It's on
it's
a cloning facility on the same planet.
I know, but it's not going to be the exact same as my point. It's not going to be told.
Okay. To your point there, as of right now, I will agree.
Yeah, it's going to be an homage or a recreation of that, not done exactly the same way. So my point is maybe this is the same character, but they're going to do it a little different than they've done in Legends.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fine. I agree. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys. We're halfway through. I feel like these first 3 episodes have blown by because they did the double feature on Friday and then a single episode on Wednesday. So in 5 days, we got 3 episodes. So we've gotten like 2.5 hours, 3 hours of Kenobi.
And it's going to feel like a year before episode 4.
Yeah. Episode 4. Where do we go from here? Well, it's going to be very Reva focused. It's going to be probably Reva's mission. Her plot will be revealed. It's going to be Kenobi's rescue mission of Leia. And I assume a final conflict between Vader and Obi-Wan. But so far, I have guessed everything wrong about the show. I've got everything wrong, so don't take my word for it. That's just where I think we are going. But guys, I mean, it's an hour and 40 minutes. I want to say one more topic before we go. At least spend like 15, 20 minutes on this. Star Wars Celebration happened last weekend. I know it feels like an eternity ago, but it ended on Sunday. It was only 4 days ago. And there were so many announcements. We covered them here on the channel. Ben talked about them on his channel. I just want to maybe take a moment and talk about what was your favorite announcement or what made you the happiest, what put the biggest smile on your face from Star Wars Celebration. I'm not going to take the lead here because I don't want to steal anyone else's. I'll be generous and I'll pass it over to Ben. What warmed your heart the most this Star Wars Celebration? Was there anything or were you just like, whatever?
For the Jedi.
Yeah.
That was the biggest rickroll, but I did not feel...
Can I ask you a question, Ben?
Yes.
Have you seen the leaked trailer?
No.
Let me send it to you after offline and see if you like it. I mean, it's not going to be... What's up?
Can we watch it?
We're not going to watch it here because I only have... Yeah, we're not going to watch it here.
Oh.
It's not officially posted yet.
So
I'll find it.
Yeah, I'll send it your way. But yes, the name was definitely a heartbreaker. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, not really. I wasn't emotionally like holding on to it. It's just like, why the mixed signal? Like, guys, you know what the logo is. Like,
agree 100%.
Yeah, what's going on? Just don't do that. Don't turn around with it. But the idea is, after being sold on Count Dooku and Dooku Jedi Lost, which one of the most phenomenal all-time Star Wars experiences I've ever had. Listening to that audiobook. Josh, thank you, by the way. You were the one putting me on, like, Ben, please experience. And I'm not a noob in that sense. Like, I experienced a couple of Legends audiobooks, but this is on a whole different level. This is like a whole radio drama. It was amazing. I was like, oh, all right, cool. That's kind of nice. Other announcements, Josh and I, we spoke off screen a little bit, and I told him, like, I never connected, partially because I grew up first half of my life in Russia. I never had access to Star Wars, like the celebratory kind of thing. Like, I don't feel special on these days. But what I did feel very special about was the Jedi Survivor.
Ooh.
Dude, when I saw that trailer, that video game blew me away. So here is a short story. I had to wait for a whole year, being a frame rate purist that I am, and I refused to
Here
play
we go.
before. That game, literally, I bought it on the first day. It said right on my shelf, literally, guys, for a year, until I could secure a PS5. and I secured a PS5 and I beat it. And the level of maturity and the level of that, how tight the story felt. To me, it was like so vintage, old school, a legend style storytelling of Star Wars in a video game. It just blew me completely away. I'm like, I hope they do a trailer. Of course, I'm not going to hype myself up because then you'll end up being disappointed. If it happens, I'll be happy. And sure enough, the trailer hits right on cue, and I'm just like, I felt like a high school kid again. Like,
I'm back.
I'm back. Yeah, I felt that vibe, man. That was my favorite moment.
That's awesome. I thought for sure you were going to say Bad Batch season 2, because I thought that was probably the most effective use of a minute and 15 seconds for a trailer. It was so good.
There's a reason why I said no.
Okay,
because
tell me why.
I felt that the trailer for the original season 1 was far more effective. Here, like I know it's gonna be amazing. I'm already sold. But the trailer itself, just like today they dropped a new trailer for Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm.
You know the content is dope, but the trailer just didn't build that momentum. It's just like action, splice, Omega, splice, and like okay, whatever.
I vibed so hard. In my reaction, I was just like, like the music. I was like, let's get it. It's great. Jimmy, before I pass it to you, there's only one answer on the best thing from Star Wars Celebration.
And that was the fact that Chopper's going to be in Ahsoka.
Exactly
Rebel
right.
Season 5, baby.
Chopper came out on stage with the cast of Ahsoka. They were like, Chopper's here. And I was like, that's it. Weekend made, baby. That's all I needed to hear. You know, it's funny because at the time they announced it, like it seemed like they had to do that, right? Like, of course, Chopper was going to be in it, but it's just so vindicated. You know what I mean? It's just so like, yes, absolutely, our boy Chopper. So this was like my most like, I was at the store when they tweeted this out with my wife, and we were like, because we both love Chopper. Chopper's the best. So that was like kind of maybe the most like, like goofy, fun moment. I will just say the Bad Batch Season 2 trailer got me the most hyped.
Yeah.
I think Bad Batch is absolutely phenomenal. I have the Hunter hot toy pre-ordered to come out later this summer. One of my favorite characters in one of my favorite groups in all of animated Star Wars is Bad Batch. I love the fact that they took like action hero 80s style tropes and made them like, you literally have Rambo. I mean, Hunter is literally supposed to be like Rambo looking.
Yeah,
Rambo.
literally Rambo.
But a lot more heart, a lot more, and how they've changed that whole group, brought in this young sister character in Omega, and have just completely like got me in. So Bad Batch Season 2 had me so hyped. I much to watch that, like, no joke, 15, 20 times.
How much Disney's paying you to prop those toys, man?
Hey,
man, we got it for free. All we had to do was pay for the product and the shipping.
That's right. That's it. It's free, dude. It just showed up at my house. I just sent money out.
Wild.
Jimmy.
Yes.
What was your favorite moment? And one thing, I got to say this. And Jimmy, you go. And I'll say something after. Go ahead, Jimmy. Take it away.
Sure. First thing I want to say, I love that Ben's was Survivor, because I didn't expect that. Because it was great, because no one expected that trailer. We were hoping for it, but we just didn't know when we'd see it. So I was laying in bed with Gail.
Because there was no panel.
Yeah, I'm laying in bed with Gail. I think I had just gotten back with food, so I almost missed it. And I sat down, we were eating, and I'm like, cool, Anthony's on stage. I love him. He's great. I was like, oh, wow, BD1. That's cool. Wait a minute, BD1? And they're like, you have an exclusive. I sat up. I was like, give it to me now. And I immediately texted Josh. I said, Jedi Survivor trailer, get on it now.
Yeah, you did.
Jim, very
so
quick
was really
question.
Cool. Yeah.
Who the hell is in Back to Tank?
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny you should mention that, because I have a theory video I'm going to be putting out that is going to be completely wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway.
That's this channel. You want the wrong Star Wars information?
I can tell you who is actually in the tank. I don't know who I would like it to be. I mean, I wouldn't mind a little bit of your old buddy Joris, but it's whatever.
Oh, Joris Kabul.
I just think it would be cool
because the whole room is like overgrown with vines. It's got to be at least decades old.
And it looks like a cloning tank, and they're just alluding to Heir to the Empire so much with all the little stuff they've been putting out through Rebels and now Ahsoka and the original. I think a little bit in Fallen Order maybe, but in Bad Batch Season 1, it's all coming together to be something of an Heir to the Empire. And if so, I'm excited. hence the hand gestures. What was my favorite experience from Star Wars Celebration? I'd also have to go with Bad Batch Season 2. The trailer just had me really hyped. It was great, and it felt very long for a minute and 15 seconds, but let me tell you, the music is what got me.
Yeah,
When the title comes up at the end, the music that
me.
was playing just, oh man. Well, here's the thing. I listen to a lot of the soundtracks. I have a massive Spotify playlist of my Star Wars favorites. And in there, for the Bad Batch, they had tracks that were called Sid's Jukebox Playlist. And it was like music that was playing in the background of her club. So it's like literal Star Wars music in a way. They even had one for Roland, the guy that takes over for a couple episodes. He had his own jukebox mix as well. So I was like, wow, these are really cool because they sound like real like alien techno music. So hearing that at the end of the trailer, I was like, we're getting more of that. And that's what hyped me up for it.
That's cool.
It's great. But since Josh said it, my second favorite is definitely Andor.
Andor looked really good.
Andor? Yeah, that looked surprising.
It was just a big surprise of, yes, I'm excited for this.
I know what our fans are going to say, and so I will address it. High Republic had a very big presence at Star Wars, but let me tell you why it wasn't my most hyped. Because books, I have a totally different kind of feel for. Like, there are no book trailers or what. Like, it's not the same. Like, trailers are about eliciting hype and getting us like, woo, you know. And books are a lot of a different experience for me. So I'm super hyped for the books.
I've only seen one book trailer in my life.
Yeah, and the High Republic has had like trailers for the Initiative, which has been fun. It's just a different kind of excitement. Like when those books are, you know, we're going to be watching the High Republic shows and reading those books when they come out. It's just a different type of like hype.
You're excited with like when the book is in your hands and you're holding it. It's like, all right, let's.
Or like a day or two before when you know it's coming. You're like, oh, here it comes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like with the High Republic stuff, you had the two things that really got me. I was like, one, you got Cavan Scott writing his first YA novel for the High Republic. Very interested to see the writing for that, and the new audio drama, The Battle for Jeddah.
Yeah, I like that.
What do you mean? I must know more immediately.
Agreed. There were several projects. They announced what, 20? How many books did they announce, Jimmy? It was felt like 100.
13.
13.
Like
golly.
13. And that's a combination of books between middle grade YA and adult, comic series, and audio dramas.
So we are.
Oh, and the Art of the High Republic and the High Republic Chronicles thing.
I just yanked it out. I just ripped out my headset in excitement. I was like, get this out of here.
And you just missed everything I just said.
Well, here's
which
one
is
thing.
Good. I was talking bad about you.
Here's one thing I wanted to say. As we were wrapping up Star Wars Celebration, I had a blast. When this channel is at 100,000 subscribers next year, we'll go to London. All of us are going to fly out, go to London, and enjoy the Star Wars Celebration.
Leave your super chats now so we can go to London.
Paid for by Disney.
Paid for by Disney.
We're going live. We'll be there. We'll check it out live.
It's all Disney. Always has been.
I wanted to show everyone here what it's like to be a Star Wars YouTube content creator. You might be like, what is it like, Josh? You have 1,500 subscribers. You're big time. You're huge. What is it like? And let me show you. As the boys were telling us their favorite moment of Star Wars Celebration, I took a little screenshot from my most recent comments. And this is not doctored in any way, except for I scratched out the names of the individuals, even though it's public info. So I don't know why I did that. I just felt like I'd be appropriate.
I mean, I think it's appropriate.
You want to know what being a Star Wars YouTuber is? This is it right here. These are the most recent comments on the channel back to back on the same video. First comment says an hour ago, this show is trash so far. And the second says, I'm absolutely loving the show. It's amazing. Okay. That's what it is. It is one fan coming in and being like, man, I love the show. And the next minute someone's like, this show's trash and I hate you. And it is hilarious. It's funny. But memes aside, as we talked about earlier with some of the folks in chat, like it might not hit for everyone. We don't like the same things. That's okay. But it's just funny, like how the Star Wars fandom is. We are so all over the place in our interests and our hobbies. And I find it funny. And this made me laugh as we were sitting here. I'm like, yep, these are my two most recent comments on the same video. I don't know who's right, but we all have our different opinions on it. So I wanted to kind of call that out here at the end.
Yeah. That's good. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it was great. It happened while we were streaming here. So boys, it's been a long stream. It's been a fun stream. We'll talk offline. Chat. We'll have to keep in touch with you guys on what we're gonna do for the finale. I feel like we have to do something, whether
Yeah.
it's maybe a Wednesday night episode instead of a Thursday night, so we can talk real time right after, and not wait a full day. We'll talk about it offline. We'll figure something out. But it's only 3 weeks away now, so it's coming around the corner. Any closing thoughts from the guys? I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate you being patient with us as we had a weird start to the stream with some errors on YouTube. Appreciate your patience. Boys, closing thoughts for the night.
Kenobi's pretty cool. Please hold all judgment until this show has wrapped. You know, we don't need to know the answer to everything the second it's on the screen. But at the same time, if you're not feeling the show, understandable. I hate that it's not for you, but hopefully there's something in Star Wars that you do love.
Yeah.
I like it.
I just want to say that in light of the stuff that we had to sit through a little bit, and I had once again my little Star Wars prequels deja vu with Ahmed's Best, with Jake Lloyd, with Hayden Christensen. Guys, trust me, I feel most of the fans who feel frustrated, whose voices are not being heard, and your criticism is being thrown in the same basket as all those negative people that we try to not give a lot of platform for to even mention who they are, because they don't represent Star Wars fandom. If you're frustrated with something, you want to express like legit criticism, say what doesn't work for you, this and that, Disney's vision for Star Wars is not what you imagined. If you take a moment and pause before you say something, trust me, people will listen to you more. If you don't come at it, you don't tackle the problem emotionally and just try to pour it all out, and people don't respond like that. If you take a moment and consideration, like, look, I enjoy Moses Ingram. I think she's very beautiful and talented person. This or that doesn't work for me. It's kind of, I'm preaching a little bit, guys, but this is what I find interaction on my YouTube channel is like being a content creator. This is what I find as a moderator and an owner of like a Facebook group, which I never tried to make it about me or myself. It's about all of us, guys. All of our voices matter. And trust me, I hear fans who have problems with ABC because I lived through a decade of Star Wars, which wasn't for me. And it sucked for a while, and I was jaded for a while, and I was negative for a while. But you grow past that point. At one point, you say, like, hey, let's come together and talk about things that we love or don't love necessarily together. Let's be in it together. There is no room for that nonsense that happened with Moses Ingram, not in this fandom. With a kind of loving and receptive community that I would like to hope or think that 90% of us are just good people. We just don't happen to love everything that Disney throws out. Yeah. Or George Lucas, for that matter.
Yeah, and I try to make this clear in my video. Like there's differences between not liking a character and the kind of terrible things you can say online. There's a difference. Yeah. Like there's like I don't enjoy Multiverse of Madness. Would never go comment on those actors. Saying those kind of things. There's a big difference in how you handle yourself there, and it's not hard to make that distinction either. It's not hard to preface. It's not hard to add that little, add that kind of respect for the people who look, guys. I said in my video, and it sounds soft, and I'll be honest with you, like I make content, and we get okay comment, mostly positive comments. We get some negative comments, some mean comments. It can be draining. Especially before I had Jimmy on the channel, it was just me. Like I get some of those, it can kind of ruin your whole night. Someone says something terrible to you because you want to defend yourself, and they respond, and you spend all this time, and it's so negative. And so
I'm Josh's emotional support animal.
That's right, Jimmy. That's why I brought him on the channel.
I'm only here for love and support. But I was gonna say, last thing I want to say though is like Ben took the words right out of my mouth, because I was gonna say, just I was listening to Force Center podcast. Check them out. They're a much bigger podcast, but Ken Knapsack he said the great thing that, you can say, I don't like Reva because blank, or I don't like Rose Tico because blank. And it's okay to do that. Just think about what you're saying and how you're saying it. You just got to just think before you speak, just like what Ben perfectly, just think about it. That's all.
Pause for a second.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. Well said by our wise senior Jedi Master himself in Ben Kenobi. Right. Well, thank you guys for being here tonight. It was a long stream, a rocky start, but a fun conclusion. It's always fun on Thursday nights. I look forward to more episodes in the future. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. Hopefully you're enjoying something in Star Wars or in any fandom you're into. Hopefully you're having good fun somewhere. We look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Thanks so much, guys.